Hello, we are Bears in Hazenmore from Regina, Saskatchewan, taking over Radio Humber 96.9 for the next hour, or you might be watching the video of this afterwards. We are going to be telling some stories, playing some songs that we all recorded separately. We are all socially isolating from each other and everyone, as I'm sure a lot of you are. So if you're at home socially isolating, sit in, get comfortable, get a beverage, get a snack. Listen to us talk, listen to us play music.
We'll get started with some introductions. My name is Brady Frank. I sing and play guitar in the band, and let's go around the circle here.
That's right.
If I'm next, then my name is Dana. I play bass and saxophone in this band.
I'm Darnell. I play guitar in the band, and everything's got to be blue for me. I play blue guitar.
I'm Tanner. I recently got a blue drum kit, and I play that in the band.
I'm Dalton. I play synth and trumpet in the band.
Okay. Well, we're going to start off with our first song here. I'll just explain our little process a little bit. We are all quarantining separately, so we can't record anything together. What we've been doing is basically tracking everything separately. One person will start a project. They'll pass it on to the next person who passes it on through all five of us, so that we get recordings of all of us playing. And then, so what you'll see is a visual, if you're watching the video, of all five of us in our own homes recording. And the audio isn't a recording of our studio album. It's basically a live recording of the five of us collaborating together. A lot of the songs sound really similar to the way we play them live, so we hope you enjoy that. We're going to start off with a song called In Your Head. And Dana, you kind of spearheaded the lyrics on this one. So if you want to give us a bit of a brief overview of what you were kind of thinking at that time and what you were writing about.
What was I thinking? I normally don't get given a microphone on a stage anymore. So now you guys have to listen to this. You'll have to think about all of my feelings for once. Enjoy. In Your Head is basically just a song about the decisions we make that affect our lives and the forces within us that drive ourselves to do that. I guess I started that off like it was going to be really simple. Maybe that's a big idea or something, but kind of it's like a sort of meditation on a couple big transitionary moments in my life, and not only the decisions I made and what I was feeling around them, but kind of what made me make those decisions and how there were similar patterns between different times in my life, and perhaps how we can break out of not ideal patterns in how we behave or act or think.
You're listening to 96.9 Radio Humber. We're Bears and Hazenmore taking over for the hour, and this is In Your Head. That was In Your Head by Bears and Hazenmore. We are Bears and Hazenmore. We're here. You're listening to 96.9 Radio Humber, and we're taking over for the hour. So I hope you're enjoying our show so far. I'm going to start us off with an icebreaker question. I want everyone to give me some sort of recommendation of either a movie or an album or podcast or something that they've found in the last 2 months from quarantine and really enjoy and think our listeners would also enjoy. Dana, start with you.
Okay, I'm looking down to corroborate with my Spotify and make sure I'm crediting this song correctly. It's an old one, Drive by the Cars. I had never heard that song consciously until like a couple days ago. Do you guys know the song? The
I think
Cars.
so. Yeah.
I knew Darnell would be the only one.
I'm the one old enough to remember this. That's not true.
It's like, who's gonna drive you home? That's the from the chorus. And it's like it's featured in the show Dead to Me. And I remember watching it and I remember being like, this is a really weird scene. Why is this guy so sadly singing this karaoke song? Who's gonna drive you home? And then I heard it somewhere else and I was like, this is a jam. Like it just, and I've listened to it like 10 times today. So everything we do today is going to end up sounding like that.
Yeah.
That's very, very sweet, Dana. Dalton, what's your recommendation?
I've been, I guess I finished it last week, but I was watching this TV show called Dark. It's the German Netflix original. It's very good. Has to do a lot with time travel. The music's also very good in it. Don't watch it with dubs. Watch it with subtitles because, you know, it's cooler in German.
Hot take.
Darnell, what's your recommendation here?
I've been listening to an album called I Feel Alive by a band called Tops, and I absolutely love it. I've probably listened to it a couple of times, like daily since it came out. I love it that much. So shout out to Tops and the album I Feel Alive.
Darnell, that's the music that I've also been listening to the most, and every single time it reminds me of you. Like it's just everything about it. It's like you basically made the album, really.
I feel I identify very, very much with the guitar sound that comes out on that album. I think it's very indicative of the way I play also. So it's very chimey and chorusy and probably done on a Stratocaster.
Very cool. Tanner, what about you?
Well, I haven't listened to all of it yet, but Doubt It just put out an album called Dang It, and I listened to a bit of it this morning, and it's pretty great. Shout out to Regina boys. Doubt It.
For my recommendation, I was actually going to also say that Tops record, but I equally have been listening to the new Childish Gambino record as well. Big fan of that as well. It's like I wouldn't say like all of it is super, super interesting and high quality, but a good portion of it, especially the first half of the record, is super, super good. It's kind of like an expansion on his This Is America stuff, and big fan, especially Algorithm. And the other songs are just numbers, so I think Time Has a Name, and that one's also good.
1910, is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that was my favorite one, 1910. Okay, we're going to go to another song because these people want to hear more of our playing, I'm sure. And this next one we're going to pick, we recorded called Wedding Season. And if you're just joining us, we're called Bears and Hazenmore. We're from Regina, Saskatchewan. Dana, you also wrote the lyrics for this one. So if you want to give a little brief intro, or if anyone else wants to jump in.
Well, I remember two things about this song. That's not the way I want to say it. I'm sure there's more than two things I remember about this song. I will say two things about this song. Thematically, it is, I suppose, it's a fictional story of having to navigate seeing one's ex in a perhaps highly emotionally charged situation, and what that could be like. So, I mean, draw that picture, I guess. And the name being that I knew people who would refer to wedding season not only as like, I guess, summer or whatever, but that everybody had their own wedding season in their life. And that time was like the time in your life when everyone around you is getting married. You're in the middle of wedding season, but you're like not there yet. And you just have to go to all these weddings, even though like maybe you're not really interested in it. So there's like a bit of a play there. And I remember it's largely in 7. And I actually struggled to play it in 4. And I don't think, if I remember correctly, Brady didn't want to do it in 7. He was sick of the prime number meters that I normally like to do. But I really couldn't keep feeling it. I couldn't feel it that way. So too stupid to play in 4 for this one. So there you go.
Another thing that's interesting about this when I was writing kind of like the melody and the phrasing is Dana sent me lyrics and had a bit of an idea of the phrasing off of a melody that I had written. But I kind of had to tinker with it because we wanted harmonies as well, kind of like a Fleet Foxes, Local Natives kind of harmony the whole time kind of song. And I remember the first verse. I'm proud of how it sounds, and I think it's good. But I think in the second verse, I learned from the first verse how to bridge the gap of taking out a beat better. Like in the first verse, it sounds like I'm trying to sing in 4 and I'm just hurrying it. Whereas in the second verse, I kind of like phrased it in a way that it elides more over the bar lines, which I'm kind of proud of. So here's wedding season.
And this has been Music Theory with Bears and Hazenmore on Radio Humber 96.9.
You are about to hear Beneath the Ice by us, Bears in Hazenmore. The song was written at my grandma's cabin at Last Mountain Lake. So you can all think to all your wonderful memories you've had at my grandma's cabin at Last Mountain Lake while you listen to this next one.
That was Beneath the Ice by Bears in Hazenmore from Regina, Saskatchewan, and you're listening to Radio Humber 96.9 FM.
One of our newer songs is called Make a Move, and this is it's one that we haven't recorded yet, so actually you're not the first people to hear it, but it is maybe the song's radio debut. So thank you to Radio Humber for allowing us to have this opportunity. the song "Make a Move" is very, I'm going to say it's very 1980s inspired in its sort of the sounds that I'm going for on the guitar, and the synthesizers that Dalton brings to the table here on this one. But this is one of the songs that when we've performed it live, I'm usually looking at my feet when I'm performing, and I look out into the audience and I see that this song connects with people in a way that really makes me smile. And it's usually because they're smiling. And there's a certain amount of hopefulness to this song, even though it's about kind of giving up the life as you know it in order to pursue something else and essentially start over again. I think there's certainly a veiled optimism to it that comes forth in the overall tone of the song, and I think people connect with that very much when they hear it. So here, the song is called "Make a Move" by us, Bears in Hazenmore.
"24, the clock is ticking slightly faster. Ignore it all, you aren't deferring all the answers. Another year, another heavy load of decisions. Ignore it all, you aren't two sides heading for a collision. You pack your bags without blinking, but never stop dreaming of her. You left your job, but were you thinking? Not sure what all this is worth. But they don't know what you're going through day by day, with mountain pressure weighing down on you. Something that you spit our sticks and fill all the blank pages like no one's ever listened. This pursuit now lifelong. No, 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 no. They don't know what you're going through.
That was Bears and Hazenmore from Regina, Saskatchewan with Make a Move. And you're listening to 96.9 Radio Humber.
Now for our next segment, it's story time with Reverend Wrinkle, also known as Dana Rempel. And he's earned the title of band chaplain. It's story time with you, Dana, and you get to pick out of a couple stories. So I'm going to give you a list of stories. You tell us your favorite one in depth. You're a great storyteller. So here are the examples. You can tell the legend of Mr. Spider. You can tell the kidney stone border crossing fiasco. You can tell about our stop at the Ann Arbor White Castle at 3 a.m. Or you can explain the genesis of the Minion. And I actually have one more. We call this one What Mike, when Dalton met Charlotte Day Wilson before she was famous.
I guess from that list, probably the best story of them all, and also the best one to relay to a wide audience, would be the kidney stone border crossing story. Is that the title you gave it?
Kidney stone border crossing fiasco.
Okay, it was a bit of a thing. So when we did our first tour ever with Megan Nash, our good friend, we were going to Central Canada, and it started with a show in Winnipeg. It was a house show with a cool group from there called Holly, Ruth, and the Grey Jays, and a few other acts, if I remember correctly. But it was a pretty cool show. We had fun. The show ended up going later than any of us expected, and we just, we were hanging out and whatnot. So when it came time to decide, like, is the party shutting down? Are we going to bed? Whatever. We decided that we would just drive like straight through the states into through the northern states there into southern Ontario. That was our route all along, but we kind of decided, well, we could keep hanging out here and we'd end up with 3 hours of sleep and then a long drive, or we could just give her. So we did that. I think we kind of loaded everything up, got it in the van, made our way out. It was raining, if I remember correctly. It was not a good set of scenario or circumstances to be doing such a long drive or such a silly action in. But we decide we leave Winnipeg and we go down to the border crossing that's closest to Winnipeg. I'm not sure which one it is, but we go in there and when you're touring in the band, especially if you're not playing in the States, it's very unclear what kind of documentation you should have or how you should prepare to say, hey, I'm going to go through your country. I'm not going to do anything there, but I'm going to go through it because it's quicker than going through Canada. So we always have kind of like some array of documentation and an itinerary and all this sort of stuff. So when they inevitably realized that we were a band of, at that time, 6 people in a van on a tour, that they're probably going to have to ask some questions. So in this particular case, I feel like I was probably driving. And as soon as we highlighted the fact that we're a band, it seemed more like routine or something. They were just like, okay, well, this is the sort of thing we should check out. So why don't you guys pull into this little garage here, and then we'll search your vehicle, which, as I recall, was all pretty casual. But then it's also like, it was stressful. It was the first time any of us had went over an international border doing music or touring or anything, and we had talked a lot about like how to make sure we had our story straight with what we were saying about what we were going to do. And we were obviously not like running guns across the border or something wild, but we just wanted to make sure that we got through with as little of hiccups as possible. So they take us in there. They put us into like a holding cell, the 6 of us, and then they take dogs and like check our van, go through the whole thing. It's pretty wild. And then they come to us and they make us all line up on like a very surgical looking stainless steel table. They have us all turn out our pockets, and then they go through everything, and they're going down the line. They go through most of us. It's kind of no big deal. And then they get to Brady. And what I haven't said so far is that Brady had just recently before this had kidney stones. For the first time in his life. I think he was hospitalized at the time we were supposed to be recording our first song with Megan. Yeah. So this was basically like the start of kidney stones in Brady's life. And he was, after the first one, he had some pain from that. I think there was an infection or something like that. It was just like not like a really serious health concern, but just a little bit of like an ongoing, like, is the thing I got to do with my body for him, I imagine. I'd have nothing to do with it. So that was what he was kind of like monitoring. So he was talking about it the night, that we left to go to the border when we were in Winnipeg at this house show. He had mentioned it to somebody, that he was having some some pain and stuff, and he was a little worried about it. And this person was like, "Oh, I know exactly what the thing is for that. It's garlic pills. You got to take garlic, and I have them right here. Do you want some?" And Brady, of course, being very polite, not wanting to say no, he receives these garlic pills from the person who had dispensed them into like a sandwich bag, not the Ziploc ones, but the ones with the little tab that you pull over that have like it's like a really janky kind of situation there. So that, just a bunch of like capsules with greeny kind of garlic pill stuff in them. So if you don't know if you can't imagine what that looks like, it looks a lot like illegal drugs when you turn out your pockets onto a stainless steel table in front of a bunch of border guards. So as we go down the line, they're asking a couple things. I remember they asked about like an amethyst I had in my pocket, and they get to Brady and they pick up this bag of pills, and the guy says, "What is this?" Like almost kind of like baffled that you would even have this here. And Brady sort of stammers through an explanation, and it's like, it's really like, it's really not doing it. Like he's just kind of half saying things. And he's like, "Well, I was, some person at this show we played, it was at a house, they gave me these pills and I don't need them, whatever." And the guy just keeps asking things like, like basically he boils it down to, so a girl at a party gave you some pills and you just have them here now. And we're all just like sitting there trying to behave or whatever, like trying to make it through this. And we just, like, I remember thinking like, we're not going through the border now. Like, I know that there's nothing wrong. They're garlic pills, but like, it just looks so bad. And Brady played it so bad. And like, there's nothing we can do now. But eventually they understood, and they like, it was fine that he had them. And I think the guy was like, "Do you want these back?" And Brady was like, no, you can keep them. And it was all very, very weird. We made it out of there, but really by the skin of Brady's teeth.
The dogs checked it and it was cool.
Yeah,
They don't
I mean,
like
the dogs
garlic.
are cool, whatever.
The weird part is we definitely they let us keep them. I ended up with them at some point. These
Yeah,
garlic
really?
pills.
You?
Yeah.
Oh.
I don't remember
I think
why.
that they like, I remember him being like, "Oh, you want me to keep them?" And then Brady being like, "Oh, fine, okay." And just like taking them. Like it was all a very tense and abnormal
Couldn't do anything right.
And
It
there
was like
was-
4 a.m.
Yeah, and there was a good good cop, bad cop kind of agent situation. And there was a like a good agent who was like, "Oh, don't forget to take your chips. They won't get eaten here."
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's. I mean, border guards are always a very, like, crossing the border is always a weird dynamic. It's a weird power dynamic, right? But in that case in particular, yeah, there was some, and I think just when you're doing that, when you're going across borders with like instruments and it looks like you're going to tour, but you don't have visas, and you're just going through their country, those situations, there's always someone who's like, "All right, I gotta scare this guy." Like there's inevitably someone who comes out of that situation with their feathers ruffled because they just make it that way, I guess. But this is Caves by Bears and Hazenmore from Regina, Saskatchewan, and you're listening to 96.9 Radio Humber. You just heard Caves by Bears in Hazenmore, and you're listening to 96.9 Radio Humber.
So this next one is the first time we've played this song in any sort of recording context. We just named it. The name might change, but hopefully it sticks. The World You Know is what it's called. And basically, I think maybe the most scary thing for me of all the crises going around in our world is people having their minds twisted by like online extremism. And it's not something that like it seems like it's just on the news or something. For me at least, like I know people who are very, very different than I knew them when I was in school with them, or other people in my life who are just like completely different people because they were exposed to harmful views on the internet, and how basically like tech companies made it a priority to just optimize people using their sites rather than making the world a better place. And it's had some pretty catastrophic consequences, and I think it's going to get worse probably. So with that dark note, I wrote this song with that in mind. And if you haven't checked out, there's actually a really good podcast by the New York Times called The Rabbit Hole, which also helped me finish writing this song. And it's basically just like details how someone can be just like a regular person, and basically like loneliness and different factors can lead to you believing in things that you would never believe in otherwise. So that's kind of where this song is coming from, and it's supposed to be a little frightening and make you think about the way the world works and who's responsible for what. So here's The World You Know.
This should be your prime. You're spending too much time alone. It's been 5 weeks since you spoke to a soul back home. And your old friends never seem more distant. One click leads to another, and it's left you feeling. Why can't they see it? Seems the whole world's going mad all around me. Now you're left with your favorite hobby. Digging deeper, you're getting worried. You can't get out of your head. Can't quite remember when it all started. Dark videos, and you watch them nightly. Hold fear close and trust it blindly. Started slowly, just searching for connection. A group of people that look just like you. They got the answers that you subscribe to. You find those people. him nightly, hold fear close, and trust it blindly. The world you know, replace reality, swallow her own, never ending worry. The world you know, swallow her own.
You've just heard The World You Know by us, Bears in Hazenmore, on 96.9 Radio Humber.
So The Coming Storm is kind of a song that I think people would closely identify us by. Like if they knew one song of ours, it might be The Coming Storm. And it gets quite a bit of radio play at our home station, CJTR in Regina. And yeah, it's one we often end our shows with, and it's quite anthemic. It's long, and it makes you kind of work for the payoff. But the underlying theme of it is basically, if you imagine your life full of like anxiety as a child, and kind of like looking back at some of the things that made you scared, and some of the things that made you view the world in a certain way, as an adult, reviewing those and kind of reflecting on who you've become and how to cope with those things, because there's certainly just as many, if not more, anxieties as an adult. It just shape shifts in different ways, and it's just kind of like a acknowledgement of what that's like to go through, and basically understanding how that affects you. We are Bears in Hazenmore, and this song is The Coming Storm. You're listening to 96.9 Radio Humber.
Watch the ceiling turn from blue to white. Shallow breaths, early morn, and I loved you when we were young. Excuses signs I'll take. Breath of smoke I away. You know. Watch the signs I'll take. Breath of smoke I away. You know. You know.
Hey, thanks for listening. We've been Bears and Hazenmore from Regina, Saskatchewan. Check us out at Bears IH on Twitter, at Bears and Hazenmore on Instagram, at Bears and Hazenmore on Facebook, at your local venue. As soon as we are able to congregate again, we will come to you and you will come to us, and joy will be had. Thank you to Radio Humber 96.9 for having us. We've had a blast. Goodbye. Everyone wave.
Bye.
Bye.